Mortal Kombat! All right, now that's one additional Mortal Kombat yell than you'll actually get in this movie we're about to review. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It, and welcome to my spoiler-free review for the new movie Mortal Kombat from Warner Brothers Pictures. You can find it right now for free on HBO Max if you have that streaming service, or support your theaters, and you can go see it in theaters right now as well. This is going to be, I think, an interesting review from maybe some of the others that you've seen on YouTube, because I am not a gamer. I like Mario, I like Tetris, I like Disney Emoji Blitz, I like Sonic the Hedgehog, but I don't really play these fighting games. When I was a little kid, I played Contra on the original NES, but, you know, other than like watching my brothers play stuff like Mortal Kombat and Grand Theft Auto, I don't really gravitate towards these kind of games. So this will be a review taken from the perspective of a moviegoer and not necessarily a huge Mortal Kombat fan. And it's interesting because I've talked to Mortal Kombat fans in my own life on both sides of the fence about this movie. Some of them thought it was, you know, really cool and really reverential to the game and all of this. And then others I've talked to really hated it and, you know, thought it was just another garbage video game movie, which of course we get a ton of. Well, my going into this with really no knowledge. Now, I did see Mortal Kombat Annihilation a few years ago. My buddy Joe from the old Film Fanatics podcast I used to do brought that for Guilty Pleasure Month one year, and it was horrible. I gave it an F. It was so bad. But again, no basis really for what I'm to expect. You know, I know the basics of Mortal Kombat. I know the yell that I gave you up front. That's a classic, and it's not in this movie for some reason. But they do a version of "Finish Him" in the movie. That's a classic line. And then, of course, what these games are known for the most are the very, very gruesome, bloody, visceral deaths. So I know that stuff, but that's it. I don't know the intricacies of the characters and their backstories and all of this like a Mortal Kombat fan might. And so that's where this movie starts to get a little bit tricky, because basically I'll give you the sort of synopsis of the film as it is. So Louis Tan plays this dude, Cole Young, who is an MMA fighter who is unaware of his own heritage in you know, being this elite fighter, or why Outworld's Emperor Shang Tsung is sending his best warrior, Sub-Zero, and he's trying to hunt Cole down. And then Cole goes in search of Sonya Blade, played by Jessica McNamee, I believe. And then we have a whole list of other people that we meet along the way. Jax and Lord Raiden. I've actually heard of Lord Raiden before. And all of these other people. And we get very little backstory about anybody. One problem with this movie is if you are a gamer and you know these characters and you know, okay, well, this over the course of, you know, I don't know, 15 games or something, whatever they've had, there's all this lore that goes into these characters. But they don't explain jack squat, really, to us. They explain a little bit about Cole and who he is. And in fact, the movie starts in, like, the 17th century, so we get a little bit of backstory in that opening scene, but again, not much. So coming into this as a moviegoer that does not know much about this franchise, these characters, I found myself very, very confused about, you know, what was going on half the time. I got the very, very basic plot points, but this is something that really, unless you're a big fan of the series, I don't think you'll be able to follow what's going on. I didn't. I wasn't able to. And in addition to that, the acting here is pretty terrible. Nobody really has much of a name in this cast. And in fact, the director, Simon McQuoid, is fresh. He's never directed anything before. Now maybe he's directed, you know, a music video or a short or something, but I looked on his Rotten Tomatoes like to see what he's done. This is the only thing listed. So I think he's pretty fresh behind the ears, and that is shown throughout this film. James Wan produced it. Now, he, of course, is known for a lot of things recently, especially in like the horror camp and the action camp, mostly for the Conjuring and Saw and stuff like that. So, he has a name too, but nothing about this movie really stood out to me. And I was, me, I love to, if you watch my videos, you know me, that I love to kind of compare movies to other things. So, like, I want to compare this a little bit to the World of Warcraft movie, because I also know nothing about that. And that's, of course, a very expansive world as well from all the games. And I got a similar feeling that, like, if you are a hardcore devotee of World of Warcraft, maybe you'll really enjoy this movie, whereas I was just left kind of confused and, not real thrilled with the end result. And here it's similar, but even worse, because the acting is also terrible. Making the movie rated R allowed them to throw around the F word a lot, and they really do. It was like being in a freaking middle school locker room or something. I mean, they were just throwing it around because they could. It was very annoying, and also detracted a little bit from the story. And believe me, I'm not a prude. I love a good curse-laden movie, but it just, I get it. Like, but when I think Mortal Kombat, I think, okay, well, it'll be rated R because of all of the gruesome, violent deaths, and not necessarily because they're dropping F-bombs every other sentence. It just seemed very, very forced in this film. But let's talk about those deaths, because there, I think, is one of the shining parts of this movie. There's not many, but like I said, I think everybody that knows Mortal Kombat, even if you've only heard a little bit about it like myself, know that the big draw to those games was the ultra-violent deaths that, have only really gotten more gruesome and more visual as the look of video games has progressed over the course of the last 20 years, So the deaths here are definitely gruesome, and they're, smashing people's heads and cutting people's arms off and kicking people's arms off and, making people have bloody stumps and whatever. And because of the technology we have now, it looks pretty good. I don't think it looks great. Let me see if I can figure out the budget of this movie, because my guess would be around 40 million, maybe 55 million. All right, so a little more than I thought. But when you have like Avengers or these movies that are 180 million, 200 million dollar budgets and can really make every single thing look absolutely real, believable, and all of that, when you cut that budget in quarters, and your main hook is sort of these very, very intense, gory, visual death scenes, there's a little bit of a disconnect, I think, when watching it, because, yeah, they look pretty cool, but I feel like video games have progressed so much by this point that I feel like they would probably look just the same if you were playing the game. And that brings me to my other main issue with the movie, other than the horrible acting and the very confusing plot line that they don't tell you any of the characters, is that I'm not sure why somebody who loves this video game franchise wouldn't rather just play the game for an hour and 50 minutes themselves than watch this movie. Because at that point, they're, a more active participant. They're actually playing the game. They're making decisions. Here, they have to sit through, what these characters decide to do and suffer whatever the consequence is. I just feel like, and I think that's probably a main reason video game movies usually don't translate that well when they decide, to make them to the big screen, because I feel like anybody who is really, really into the games would probably just rather play them. I think that's why Sonic the Hedgehog actually is one of the great video game movies, and not just as a Sonic fan, but it did something a bit different while still being pretty reverent to the original material. Mortal Kombat, I'm not sure if I can say the same, because of course I don't know how well it veers to the original material. Although I did ask the friends of mine that play the game, both the ones that liked it and didn't like it in the film version, how close is it to the game? And they all did agree, yeah, there's definitely some good, Easter eggs in there for fans, and we sort of know a lot of these characters already, and this and that. Oh, okay, so that's great. But I don't see the point really of making this a movie where you can just get the same experience from doing the video game and you're in the captain's chair, you're at the helm here making the decisions for the characters. I think for an outsider like myself, it's just a huge waste of time. And for people that love the game, I just don't know why you wouldn't play the game instead of watching the film. So my grade is going to be actually a little bit higher than I personally liked it. Because I do like to take everything into account when I review movies. And so my grade is going to be bumped up a wee bit because I do think someone who loves the game would certainly get more out of it than I did. I think they'd be less confused, and I think they would maybe enjoy some of the Easter eggs that I didn't pick up on, I'm sure. So I'm going to leave Mortal Kombat 2021 with a C-. For my own personal enjoyment, it's probably more like a D. I mean, I thought it was pretty bad. But that being said, visually, it is certainly a lot more interesting than Mortal Kombat Annihilation from about 20 years ago. I think that was 98 maybe or something. So it's definitely more enjoyable than that. But the acting is still just as bad, and the sets are just as sort of boring, and but it's ticked up a bit because we have the technology now to at least make interesting looking deaths. So there you go. That is a non-gamers review of this new Mortal Kombat movie. So watch it at your own risk. And look, if you have HBO Max already, check out the first, 20, 25 minutes. If you feel like I do about the film, you don't really have to watch the rest. Just turn it off there, and you'll be good to go to enjoy your day. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you back here next time on Dan Reviews It. Bye.